This video is sponsored by NordVPN.
The OnePlus 13 was one of the very best Androids made in recent years, maybe even ever when you consider the balance that it struck. So how does it compare to the OnePlus 15, a phone that in some ways has actually downgraded hardware, but has also seen upgrades in other areas? Well, let's talk about that in this OnePlus 13 versus OnePlus 15 direct comparison. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and these two phones almost feel like they've been made for radically different people, despite coming from the same OnePlus mainline. They share similar DNA, but where the OnePlus 13 really felt like a complete device that would excel in pretty much all areas and compete directly with Apple, Google and Samsung, the 15 doubles down on some key features and key specs, but in turn unbalances the situation. But we'll dig into that after a quick word from today's sponsor.
One of the most convenient and handy inventions of the last few years is certainly a VPN, and that's where this video's sponsor NordVPN comes in. Not only does this service help you browse anonymously, tunneling your network traffic through another region which helps secure your connection, but it's also just really handy for watching programs, movies and sports that you just wouldn't get in your home version of Netflix, for example. Or if, like me, you're a die-hard Premier League fanatic and you go on holiday, being able to log into your streaming services just as you normally would without a fuss is brilliant, and NordVPN allows you to do that. It works on Mac, Windows, iOS and our beloved Android. It's easy to install and get set up. If you go to nordvpn.com/androidpolice, you'll get up to 77% off a 2-year plan and 4 months extra for free. So check that link out in the video description, and a big thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring today's content.
One of the more talked about downgrades happening here is with the OnePlus 15's display. It's low in resolution, but it has the ability to go from 120Hz, which both phones run at normally, to 165 in certain games, with that list actually being pretty niche and limited. So does this really matter? Well, probably not for most people in functionality, but it does leave a bit of a sour taste in the mouth. You're essentially being sold a newer, supposedly better phone with a lesser resolution display. The two saving graces here are that the 15 is now totally flat, does not have any curves to its edges, something that enthusiasts have been asking for since the OnePlus 11 actually. And the slightly higher peak brightness in HBM with the 15 means that when you hold both outside in direct sunlight in automatic brightness mode, the 15's panel does get a little bit easier to see. Both of them though are very capable displays. There is not a huge difference between them, and perhaps picking between the two will actually be more of a subjective matter than an objective one, picking based on which traits you personally prefer. More objectively though, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 and UFS 4.1 storage in the OnePlus 15 is definitely more capable than the Snapdragon 8 Elite and UFS 4.0 storage in the predecessor. But whether or not you will actually feel this difference in the real world gets a little bit muddier. I think unless you are pushing them to their absolute limit, perhaps streaming high fidelity mobile games, you'll probably never really feel the difference between these two in raw horsepower at least. You might be the kind of person to run benchmarks on your phone every day just to make sure that you've still got the same amount of performance, and if that is the case, then of course the newer, more powerful phone is going to be the better choice. If not though, I think the OnePlus 13's power is undeniable regardless of the fact that it is actually a year older. It is worth mentioning that though the MSRP on OnePlus's website have remained the same, there are some killer deals to be had on the used and refurbished market with the OnePlus 13, where you can actually pick one of these things up for like around £500, around $600 US, and in that case, the 13 offers such a powerful value proposition versus the 15. For example, you still get the brilliant alert slider on the OnePlus 13, something that has been replaced with a customizable button on the new phone. Some will prefer that, and some like myself will not. You also get the higher end camera hardware that has since been downgraded in the newer model, presumably to save cost, along with the Hasselblad color tuning, which has been omitted from the new models as well. Honestly, when you take the photos and videos, you put them side by side directly, the quality delta isn't as extreme as the spec sheet might suggest, meaning that whatever OnePlus is doing in its software to make up for that lack of hardware in the newer phone is definitely working. I think it's more so the thought of paying the money for a newer model to come with worse hardware. It just kind of feels backwards, maybe a little dystopian if you really read deeper into it. I do like how OnePlus gives you the small focal length adjustments in its camera app, which is available on both, as do I enjoy the 3x zoom over the standard 5x that Apple, Google and Samsung offers on their big main telephoto cameras. The biggest differentiator here is actually that the OnePlus 15 can shoot Ultra HD 4K at 120 FPS, where the 13 is limited to 60 at the same resolution. Useful for those who really want high quality slow motion, but beyond that I'm not sure how big a difference this is actually going to make. It's a bit of a mixed bag here as to which camera system truly outputs the better samples. I have both phones on their latest updates as of the 20th of January 2026, if anyone is wondering. I think most people will be happy with either camera system, to be honest. There are obviously better options from the likes of Oppo and Vivo, but that's a story for another video. The OnePlus 13's 6000 mAh battery and 100 watt wired charging was already elite, considerably more capable than what you'd get from Samsung, Apple or Google. In fact, it was probably, up until the OnePlus 15's release, the best mainstream battery life and charging solution available in the US and the West. It's easily an all-day phone, 2 days for the right person. Honestly, the OnePlus 13 is elite. The OnePlus 15 though, it takes things a little bit further with the 7300 mAh battery, which is just over 20% larger, and it will keep the right person going for 3 to 4 days, where 2 days is more in line with what the majority of people can expect. It's an absolute workhorse, and I think if you're coming from any kind of older model of Pixel, maybe like a Galaxy S23 Ultra or older, this is going to feel like a completely different class of product to the OnePlus 15. So whilst both are brilliant, the 15 just objectively takes it. Switching back to subjectivity though, the physical designs here are interesting because whilst I'm a fan of OnePlus's circular camera setup and the curved display edges, OnePlus clearly has been trying to attract a more mainstream audience with its trendy flat sides, its more traditional camera cluster in the top left of the phone, and the much grippier rear surface that honestly does make a massive difference to how slippery the phone is. The 15 is just way grippier than the 13. But also what's interesting is that whilst the outside design does seem to want to appeal to the majority with the OnePlus 15, the shift to more speed and more longevity and less camera chops is almost like the opposite. It feels like a contradiction to that. Honestly, this is a strange one. I can't remember the last time that I used 2 generations of phones back to back from the same family of smartphones that felt like such a shift in direction. I think unless you are a deep enthusiast, either of these phones is going to suit you just fine. I think even if you're on your phone all day, both of these phones are going to be great for you. They both offer phenomenal world-class battery life and charging, they're both insanely fast, have superb displays, and both run identical versions of Oxygen OS software. If I had to pick one, I'm going OnePlus 13. I prefer the alert slider and I prefer the camera hardware as well. Particularly since you can find these at a discount, it just makes a little bit more sense to me. But if you were leaning towards the OnePlus 15, I totally get it. What an absolute beast of a phone in 2026. Guys, which of these two would you pick? Maybe now the 13 can be had cheaper on the second-hand market, maybe you'd go for that. Do you care that OnePlus is selling worse camera hardware these days and no alert slider? Or are you happy to forgive those downgrades because oh my goodness, that battery life is absurd, and obviously the design is very different as well. I think the battery jumping up in size, whilst kind of unnecessary, is also a big draw for a lot of people. So let me know what you think in the comments section, and whilst you're down there, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content, and subscribe to never miss another upload. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I will catch you later. Cheers.